Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us again at Tell Your Dog We Said Hi. We're really excited to have you here. As always, it's myself and Jen and Karin joining me. How are you girls, ladies?
Good.
Wonderful. And we have a special guest here today as well. Our first official guest to the show, Miss Karin Roseman. How are you?
Yay! I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Oh, well, we're so excited to have you here. We are so excited. For those of you who started listening to us from the very beginning, you probably heard us talk about how this show was created so that Jen, Karin, and myself could speak to the local community, our local pet loving community, and provide insight, information, how to navigate loving, living, and caring for our pet dogs. But it was also to celebrate other local pet professionals in our area and talk about the variety of services that they offer. Kind of tap into their knowledge base so that they too can provide you with really valuable insight and information that again helps to make our lives and our pets' lives better. So we are finally at a point where we are going to celebrate one of our local pet professionals, which is Karin. Karin is the founder and owner of Deer Valley Danes, a pet boutique dedicated to promoting raw feeding as well as health, wellness, and longevity products for pets since 2013. She's the creator of Snarky Bark high-value pet treats, Snacks with Sass. Her focus is on limited ingredient, small batch, and ethically sourced proteins. Karin's breed of choice is Great Danes. She has owned, trained, bred, and shown Danes for over 35 years. Currently, she lives with 3 Danes ranging from 2 years to 11 years of age. And while her home base is in Delaware, she travels across the US with her Danes and her boutique, attending AKC confirmation and performance events. Some of her side gigs include hosting the Snark Dog podcast, which is so cool, which was recorded during the COVID pandemic, focusing on health and wellness topics for pets and people. She's the author of Kingston's Kitchen, a cookbook for your favorite canine. And Karin is the current resident writer for Stroll magazine with numerous published articles, as well as the creator and admin of Facebook's Feeding Raw, which has gained international success as an educational forum with over 75,000 group members. That is amazing. She's a member of the Great Dane Club of Pennsylvania, the Great Dane Club of America, and the Delaware Paralegal Association. Welcome to the show again. That is wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait to dive into that a little bit more. That is a great resume. So let's start by having you share your story with us. How did Deer Valley Danes and Snarky Bark pet treats come to be?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm a crazy dog show person. And so with all my Great Danes, I've been feeding raw for good grief, 20, 25 years in that vicinity. And so enjoy doing the confirmation shows. And what we found is to provide a treat, a high value treat to get a dog to stack in the ring so you can show them where you get that beautiful square, like what they're supposed to look like, this beautiful model of your Great Dane. And so the professional handlers who we used, they pretty much put anything in their mouth to get their dog's attention, which can be kind of gross. I mean, they were boiled liver, so I use a professional handler for the most part when I handle when I have my dogs in the ring. And at the time we had one spectacular girl. She was actually like the #2 Dane in the country. And my handler, she would just put anything in her mouth and it was just gross and I was like, this is terrible. We got to do better than this. So we started creating single ingredient treats, mostly jerkies, like a chicken breast or turkey breast or
Nice.
The other ones we used pork liver, or, a beef liver. But how I made it, it wouldn't melt in your mouth. So when you were trying to get your dog's attention, which usually if you put a little bit in your mouth and your dog's looking at you like, oh, what do you got? It wouldn't melt in your mouth and you wouldn't be stuck with this horrible
You were holding treats in your
treat.
mouth.
Oh yeah. No, the handlers do too. I mean, they'll hold it in their mouth and they'll be like, they'll
I'm
get the
new to
dog's
confirmation, so I did not know that.
oh, we do weird things in confirmation. That's just the beginning. But it was funny because like my turkey, the turkey breast or the chicken breast that I started using, this is fast forwarding a little bit, but my son's played baseball since he was 5 years old. And the kids loved my dog treats. They would come and be like, oh, Mrs. Roseman, did you make the turkey treats again or the chicken treats? And I'm like, man, you guys are cutting into my profit. But yeah, I had the baseball team with all my dog treats. So
Better than the typical orange slices that they get.
I'm sure.
we threw some of those in there too.
Yep.
But it was just, it was kind of comical. But yeah, we tried to create just a very, very clean treat. And the evolution of that was going into some of the cookies that we created.
Yeah.
The products that we use are all, everybody can say, oh, we use organic, we use this. All the ingredients I use in my cookies, everything's organic. And I try to work with a group of small farmers that don't mass produce their meat. Our pork products, the pigs are actually like living out in the woods. They only harvest a couple at a time. So it's not like, it's not like mass produced and just, I don't know, try to be as ethically sourced as we can possibly be with all of our products. So just trying to create a clean, limited ingredient product. And it's just kind of evolved. We're creating a mushroom line. So what we do is, we'll take our new treats out on the road and we'll see how people react to them. Dogs react to them. People don't have to eat the dog treats. And, if we see something that really blows us away, we're like, okay, we're onto something. All of our products that we list on the website, we actually do third-party testing for a guaranteed analysis. We do, everything's registered with the Department of Agriculture. So it's not, there are a lot of treat companies out there, but we do have a standard that, we are licensed, we are registered with what we do.
Well, I mean, I have to say that if it's one thing to say we want the best for our dogs, and so we want to do, obviously ethically sourced and high quality ingredients. But if you're gonna put it in your mouth, I mean, that takes it to a next level. It's like, I want to be able to be okay putting this in my mouth. So that's where I go. That's amazing. Yeah, because some of the things I wouldn't put in my mouth.
No. And I mean, you do have you do have the people who will use like a piece of cheese for a treat or a piece of hot dog or, or something like that. But again, it goes back to having something that, you're out, you're doing Karen's training out, in her backyard and it's 90 degrees. And now you've got this melty piece of cheese in your hand versus, having one of our treats that you can put in your mouth and hold it there if you need to get your dog's attention or whatever. Right. And it's not going to melt. So, it's a little bit easier to work with.
Yeah. No, that's incredible.
I know my dogs love the jerky.
I'm
just saying.
That's
I don't think I've gotten anything that they haven't liked from you.
Which is, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're always trying to come up with new things that, and I love to cook. I mean, I grew up in a home that nothing was processed. I don't even think I even saw canned food until I was like in high school. Wow. And, so I've always loved to cook and I've always appreciated, trying really clean and healthy ingredients. So that's kind of where I start with all of my treats.
Yeah.
So you are talking a lot about treats, but we know that you have a very big line of products that you offer as well. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about how you started on the path of raw feeding as well? Because I think a lot of people would love to hear what is the difference between raw feeding and kibble. And I think the nutritional aspect of it is so important for the public to understand too. And I would love to hear more about that myself.
Like I said, I've been a raw feeder for 20 some years, and I have a wonderful Great Dane community. And a lot of those people, including the lady who I co-own a lot of my dogs with, co-breed, she got me started on raw food. And I started with a commercial brand because I feel like when you have a high quality commercial brand raw, it makes it easier to start that journey and that path to learn more about the raw feeding aspect, because you're dealing with a balanced food. I feel like a lot of people, when they look at a raw diet, it's at this point, it's kind of all over the place. You have a lot of people who consider do-it-yourself food and add a little bit of raw here and add a little bit, and it's great, but when you're first getting started, it can be very overwhelming.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I found a company that I love, and it's a third and fourth generation family company out of Connecticut, and they do a wonderful balanced product. So, for example, when I say balanced, if you're looking at the food pyramid and you're going with what we would call like an 80-10-10, where you're using the protein, an 80% protein, and then you're using like a 10% bone and 10% offal, which would create a balanced meal for your dog. This is already put together for you in a commercial brand. So as you start to get more and more comfortable with raw feeding, that's where you start to get a little bit more creative and add more ingredients. And having said that, I think feeding a raw diet, it personally works very well for my dogs. And I have learned a lot over the past 25 years of doing so. But I know a lot of people that it's not efficient. It can be a little bit messy. It is it's an investment in your time, and it's an investment in your energy. And a lot of people, if you're in a huge, if you're doing a multi-dog household, or you have a lot of different dogs, like especially if you're working with rescue, for example, and you've got a senior and you've got a young dog and you've got an adolescent dog and you've got all different breeds and you have all sorts of things, it can kind of get a little complicated because you want to target the dog in front of you and their nutritional needs versus a one size fits all. Kibble works for some people, and I don't have anything against it. I don't personally like it. I think it's like feeding your dog a processed food. Mm-hmm. And that is just not something, excuse me, that's not something I want to do with my dogs. And I have found over the years that even with some of our customers who are not ready to make that switch to 100% raw diet, that we are able to help them incorporate certain ingredients or make some nutritional supplementations or recommendations to kind of add that fresh aspect to their food. And their dogs do well with it. And, again, it goes back to pretty much feeding the dogs in front of you. Do-it-yourself diets, I think, are very trendy now. I mean, if you go on TikTok or any social media aspect, and you see so much, on every different diet under the sun. And I have to tell you, I mean, I'm like this some of the time.
I was going to say how much of a oh my gosh, I can't believe it kind of,
I'm like, ooh. But it kind of gives raw a bad name in that regard, because there's a method to your madness. And that's where a lot of people who, who I work with who are first time raw feeders, or who want to just kind of delve into it, but they don't want to make that commitment to doing 100% do it yourself.
Yeah.
because they're, oh, it's much more economical to do that. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're not balancing it, you're going to create a bigger problem than if you were to go with a high quality commercial brand that's going to give you that balance, so you can kind of, step into it. You can dip your toes into it until you're comfortable and then start adding on.
What do you think is the biggest mistake people make in that respect? Like missing the vitamins and minerals, or other aspects of a well-balanced diet, or just not having the education to kind of bring it all together?
Well, I think it really, now, are you talking about people who want to just start feeding a raw
Yeah,
diet?
people who just haven't, yeah, who are just kind of doing the TikTok videos, or the people that are just kind of shooting from the hip and trying to do it.
It's tough, because I feel like I worry about people who come to the table and say, I know anything and everything about raw feeding. There's so many of these businesses or whatever who are coming out and saying, well, you know, um, I know how to feed your dog. I'm a nutritionist. And I worry about that, because you're probably not board certified. And if you got your degree from a magazine, I don't want you feeding my dog. And I feel like education is key. And a lot of these people want to delve into it, but are given there's a lot of misinformation out there. And that's why I try to steer people again back to just start with a commercial brand, and empower yourself and learn more about it, because it is a journey. And if you decide that it's not your thing and you want to go with, a freeze-dried option or air dried, or or kibble or whatever, there are certain changes you can make. If you're feeding kibble, or if you're feeding a commercial raw diet or something, whether it's air dried or freeze dried, they're all things that you can do that are economical and beneficial to add to your dog's bowl, in terms of freshness, in terms of adding nutritional value, without going overboard and diving off the deep end into it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the honest thing is, it's not for everybody. A lot of the people, with all my Great Danes and all my Great Dane friends, most of them don't just have one Great Dane. I mean, I've had upwards of 5 or 6 or 7. I have friends who have 15 Great Danes. And the reality is, sometimes it's not the most affordable option.
That's a lot of Great Danes to have under one roof.
They're potato chip dogs. You can't have just one. So, but yeah, it's not, it's not for everybody. And, feeding the dog in front of you, there's so much you can do. And it's a journey, and it's just one of those things that we do. Is we have a lot of people who will give us a call or get in touch with us and say, okay, this is what I feed. What can I add? What can I do that, would be beneficial? We're not ready to make the commitment. Or I have a lot of people who do dog shows, and the reality is, they don't have, like, if you're traveling in an RV, you don't have the storage space for 50, 60 pounds of raw food, when your freezer space in your RV is like this big, So you have to be able to improvise and, and add some things to it.
What is the difference between air dried, freeze dried, and raw?
Well, it's mainly with the freeze dried and the air dried is, the moisture content. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the freeze dried options that you see, you're going to rehydrate. Okay. And I love some of the freeze dried option. I feel like the air dried, it's good too. It's just a little bit more dense. I feel like the freeze dry is just a little bit lighter and easier to rehydrate. Freeze dried, I think freeze dried is really expensive. When we go out on the road with the dogs, I will take a combination of freeze dried and raw food with me. For storage purposes, it's great. But it's also some of the freeze dried options that you can get, the commercial ones, you don't have to worry about stomach upset. And this kind of, I personally think this is interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things we do every year is we attend the Great Dane Club of America. We go to their national, which is anywhere in the United States. We were in Wisconsin this past October. And we're usually one of the sponsors that goes up because the raw feeding community is very underserved. What I find very interesting is when you travel with your dog, and you camp with them or you do anything, you might be having a blast, but it can be very stressful for your dog.
Mhm. Yeah.
And with a kibble diet, and it may not happen all the time. I'm not saying that it's, this only happens to kibble fed dogs, but what I find with, it's when you incorporate some raw food into the dog's diet. And when I say raw food, I qualify that with being like a balanced raw food. Don't just, throw a piece of raw chicken at the dog or something like that. But we can kind of reset the gut a little bit easier
Mhm.
and a freeze dried option as well. I feel like a lot of the dogs that I have seen who are on kibble, who are under a stressful situation, we find more gut issues and stomach upset. And I find that a lot less with the raw fed dogs and the dogs that we go back and forth between raw and freeze dried.
That's interesting.
Do you offer personal consultations with the general public or clients, or how can people get in contact with you to maybe get some more information to try to lead them to, I don't know, just better nutrition for their own dogs?
Okay.
So what we normally do, like if we're at a show, I spend, there's usually two of us at the show and doing, our booth or whatever. And I always get yelled at because I'm the long-winded one. Not that you could tell now, but I will talk to people until they feel a little bit better about, their plan and what they want to do with their dogs. But it's not a 2-second conversation. It's not a 5-minute conversation. It's kind of a series of conversations. And again, it's part of that journey where you're looking at it from a holistic approach. You're looking at a dog that, like we'll use your rescue, for example. This dog is, and I'm making this up because I don't know your rescue dog, but I'm just saying, I'll use my guy. My guy just came back from Henry. He is coming back from a show and, right now he's a little bit stressed out because he's been away and he's had a different environment. He's young, needs to put on weight. He's active, but he needs to relax right now because he's still really amped up. So there's a lot of conversation and dialogue that takes place in order to make those kind of recommendations and suggestions. Every dog is individual, as you guys know, even from training. And so it's not a one size fits all, but I make myself available via email. There are a lot of questions. People who I work with are all very, very knowledgeable, and we help you navigate that so that you feel confident, you feel empowered over those decisions, and you feel, what works best for your dog. And having said that, it might take a little bit. It might take a conversation or two or three or four, and that's where I try to make myself available so that I can help in any way I can.
That makes so much sense. We do the same thing, like you said, with training. It's a conversation. We have to kind of dive deep and really understand where a client is coming from when they're talking about their dog, and we ask more, questions, and just like you said, we have to just get as much information as possible before we can even start to suggest and begin our training work with them. So that makes a lot of sense, and it makes so much sense too when you think about feeding the dog in front of you. I mean, I've got dogs that are very close in age, but there are 3 different breeds. One is pancreatitis, one has Addison's, one is just a Chihuahua.
You can eat anything.
Yeah. And so, and now my senior friend is here. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at four completely different guts.
Yeah.
And I really wish you had been here 10 years ago on my
I
screen.
was. I just wasn't.
Just not on my screen.
I
No,
think that's I think that's another important thing is that, it's a course of conversations because you don't just flip a light switch and say, oh, I'm feeding raw today. It is such a journey, even if you're just transitioning where you're adding things into the diet. You can't just throw all that at a dog tomorrow and that's it. So having the support of a professional who can kind of guide you with take your time, just like behavior. It's not, oh, we do these 12 things tomorrow and all is different and wonderful. It doesn't work that way. So, making sure that it's clearly communicated that this is a transition that takes time, not a transition that takes hours. So
I know
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Karin has helped me a lot with Angus, just realizing how the gut works and the allergies and everything like that, and doing a reset and everything.
Yeah.
So
that poor dog and his
yeah,
allergies. Oh,
I've had numerous conversations with Karin.
Because I just show up at your house.
Yeah, that too.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
How do you decide what type of treats you're going to make? I know you make CBD treats and different things, that calming treats that you've helped me with my dogs. And where do you get the recipes? You just come up with them?
The sad but true, it's not sad, I guess, but yes, the cookie recipes, I don't poach anybody's recipes. They are, I am, to me, cooking is somewhat of my like love language almost, if you will. It's, I find it very calming. I find it very soothing. And, my husband and I, we love good food. So if we go to restaurants or go on vacation, wherever we go, I'm in the restaurants just getting inspired by ingredients. And, and that's where I come up with it. I mean, the jerky kind of speaks for itself because it's mostly for dog shows and baseball players. And, the cookies are, they're just, there's some fabulous ingredients and, that's kind of the inspiration is, again, this mushroom line I keep talking about. I have a fabulous lion's mane cookie. I've got another one with my Takis, and I'm just right on the verge of getting them registered and coming out because I like them, but I have to perfect them first. So
I hope that's in your marketing where these are for dogs and baseball players. That's got to be on some special cookie bag somewhere.
I'm sure my son is like, Mom, stop. So
oh, that's
well, my dogs will be your guinea pigs. They'll be your taste test.
And actually your dogs are my guinea pigs because when I do come out, I'm laughing because the other thing I'm working on, because they're so fabulous when they're fresh. And Karin, I think I made those for your guys too, the mobility muffins.
Yes.
And
yeah, my boys love them.
They, I gave them out, to a couple dogs over the weekend, and everybody texted me back and they were like, oh my God, these things are amazing. So I'm dealing now, my challenge is an angry Chihuahua who he's rescued, but he's got more attitude than he has pounds. He's a tough little thing. And I was laughing. I said, I'm going to come out with an anger management muffin. So
I love it. I will market that whole through and through. Absolutely.
Before and after.
Yeah, exactly.
But those products don't have much of a shelf life, right?
No,
Karin?
and that's where, if we're going to shows and stuff like that, I mean, I will make some fresh and I'll put them in the, I'll pop them in the refrigerator or something, but they're better served pretty fresh.
Right.
And I don't want to put preservatives in it because that kind of takes away the whole, meaning of it.
Yeah. You also need to do your bone broth, sell your bone broth.
The bone broth and the stews are
I
other.
try to replicate it and I can't.
Well, I appreciate that. Now I'm not going to tell you my ancient, secret ingredient. No, it's
He
bone
makes it on a
broths are
full
kind of the
moon night.
staples.
Nice.
I do love making bone broth, so, and I do that on a regular basis because
Mhm.
if you go back to what we were talking about with like a freeze dried or even an air dried food, if you're going to use that, even kibble, it doesn't matter. A cup of homemade bone broth, I shouldn't say it, I'm a Great Dane person. You can tell we take advantage of size, a cup for your Chihuahua. If you have a crock pot at home and it's so easy to make just a homemade bone broth, a very simple recipe. If your dog can tolerate beef, like, a beef bone, and add either a little bit of lemon juice or apple cider vinegar to just draw out that marrow. And, maybe toss a vegetable or two in there if you feel like it. I mean, I've even gone and I've infused some of my broths with like green tea or or something along those lines, targeting on, what you're looking to do, whether it's gut health or anxiety or, whatever.
Right.
But even that added to a cup of kibble is huge.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I read the Forever Dog not too long ago, and I mean they even promoted a lot of, saying
Yeah.
10%, 10%, natural foods, fresh foods can go a long way, even if you continue with your kibble diet.
It's
Mhm.
true.
Which is, yeah, anything that you can do is very impactful, for sure.
And the only other, the thing about that is I feel like a lot of people will say, oh, my dog has an upset stomach, give it pumpkin. And I feel like everything, the one sentence, it comes, everything in moderation. I feel like people who say, just, give it a tablespoon of pumpkin. Well, yeah, I can give my guys a tablespoon of pumpkin. I guarantee you that tablespoon of pumpkin for a Chihuahua is going to be having the opposite effect. It's going to be a lot. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, but really quick, because way back when, or maybe now, I don't know. I feel like a lot of advice I've heard, or people, in general, I'll just say, kind of talk out there is, you find a food. Let's just use the dry food. We'll just use a kibble. Stick to the kibble. Don't divert from it. Your dog should only eat this, and it feels very counterintuitive because when we want to have variety and adding a whole bunch of, a variety of healthful, natural foods or whatnot to keep the gut healthy and to keep the dog nutritionally sound, because they are foragers naturally. They do not eat the same thing every day. And, if my dog wants to go outside and graze grass or eat some dirt or whatnot, I am assuming they know what their body is missing. So
there's a lot of truth to that.
So
I
okay,
was listening to, no, it wasn't. I was reading a book on this actually not that long ago because I thought it was interesting. My 11-year-old was eating, and I'm trying to remember what the nutrient was, but I just found it fascinating. Even if it was 80% true or 20% true, I just thought it was fascinating. But she started eating the tops of, I want to say it was some kind of thorn bush. And I was like, oh my God, why is she, why is she doing that? And there's a theory that, the dog is going to know what it needs and where to get it.
Yeah.
And, and that you've got, not that this is a good example, but you've got dogs that, eat their own feces or, or find that from another, and it usually turns out that there's something missing in the diet. So yeah, it's true, but I do think, and I do rotational feeding as well. I mean, I will rotate proteins, and I'm lucky that even though we do have some seasonal allergies, every once in a while with my 11-year-old, she can still tolerate pretty much, at least 15, 20 different proteins that I'm able to easily put in her food.
Can you talk a little bit about the yin and yang of the balance of meat? I thought that was just, I was reading over, things with your website, and I thought that was just such a cool correlation. But being somebody that does not feed raw, I didn't quite understand it. So I would love to hear what your perspective is.
So can you guys hear me, or did you lose me again? Are you okay?
No, you're good.
Good
Okay.
for now. Yep.
So with food energetics, I find this really interesting. I tend to I have a phenomenal vet who does Eastern and Western medicine. And so we have had numerous conversations on, on food energetics. So for example, if you're watching your dog and they have, if they prefer heat, if they're, preferring a warm spot to lay in, or if they're laying, if they want to be in a colder spot. And I'm going to give you horrible examples about this. I'm just trying to get a little bit more specific. But there's certain foods that, let's say, if you have a dog with arthritis, it's an inflammatory condition, right?
Mhm.
So you don't want to have a food that's going to have a warming energetic that is going to increase that inner heat in the body. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that's where you would go to more of a cooling food,
Mhm.
so that yin and yang, that it balances each other out. So, an example of a hot food would be lamb. And so you would want to go to more of a cooling food. So maybe to use a protein like duck or rabbit. Rabbit, I feel like I deal with so many people with dogs with allergies that the rabbit, for whatever reason, seems to be the most popular item for a lot of people
Switzerland.
whose dogs have a lot of different allergies. I came back.
You came back.
I had to step over Henry. He's laying underneath my chair. So I'm wrestling with Henry.
It's a big
So I'm
step.
sorry. Did you hear some of that? I apologize if you did not.
Talked about the cooling, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
it just depends on what condition you're talking about. And again, I mean, this is something, I feel like this is still part of my learning journey, that I'm certainly not the expert in energetic foods, but there is a lot of truth to that. And I think more people, but it also, you have to, it sounds stupid to say you have to know your dog, but I mean, when you watch your dog like a hawk, you kind of know,
Yeah.
if they're going to a cooler spot to sleep, or if they're panting more, or if their eyes are red and, just kind of droopy. And that's where you want to interpret that, because it's, again, it's a lot of times it's not an either or, it's a combination.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. That's cool. That's really, I'm really intrigued by that. I'm going to have to dive a little deeper into
Yeah.
the hot and cold proteins. And then
I did a really good post on that on Feeding Raw, and I wonder, I think it's in one of the files on there. I'm pretty sure it is.
Awesome. Is that that's a public group, right?
It's yes, it is.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic.
I just joined that, so I was getting some posts over the weekend, and it was interesting to me how when people are posting on there, they'll take a picture and they'll say it's almost like they're afraid to try something new, and they're almost afraid of the answers they're going to get. But they have to consider too, just like you said, that what is good for their dog might not be good for someone else's, and it's just and sometimes they're asking questions like, oh, do you think this is okay for me to feed? But I guess, it's one of those, in some situations, it's just a try and see how they react, I guess, as long as
When I try to talk to people when they say, is there, because again, it's a conversation, and I do have some of those people on Feeding Raw who are, I try to, they're looking for veterinarian advice, like,
Yep.
and that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's not what you want to gain from this, is a learning experience. And you're still going to have to pick and choose the information that you see, because some of it is valid. We have vets on that site. We have vet techs. We have all kinds of people on that site, but they don't know your dog. You know
Exactly.
your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you look at that information, and you do have to have some critical thinking with that and say, well, I like that piece, but I don't know that that necessarily fits in with.
It's just like behavior, getting behavior advice online, and someone asks a very general question and then they get 30 people jumping all over it giving them advice, when it's like, whoa, we need a lot more information before we can make any
Yeah.
recommendations. And because it's the dog in front of you, and no one knows that dog. No one online knows your dog.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's that deeper, call me for a consultation and we can talk about your dog's diet, but I can't solve this in 30 seconds or whatnot.
No.
I mean,
I've done shows before, and people are like, pick something on the table, recommend it, and they'll tell me what's wrong with their dog. And I said, I would love to get your business. I'd love to sell you something, but what you need is not anything that I have. And that's when I send them over to get, and it's not worth it. I mean, there's so many businesses in the pet food industry is scary. I mean, it's so diluted at best at this point. And, yeah, I mean, sometimes the answer is yes, you can go to Walmart and you can pick up a organic yogurt or goat's milk or something, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
But there are other times that, you might want to invest in a, higher quality protein, and, something that's cleaner, that's not sitting on the clearance shelf at Costco. I don't know. It's
I do
it just
think
depends.
people, I think people would really, that person coming up and saying, what would you recommend? And you say, listen, I would recommend you consult with this person, or I don't have anything here that I think I have found a lot of people really appreciate that, because so many people just want to make a buck or just want to sell. Oh, this is right for you. And so that it really does speak to what your mission is and what you're trying to do for people. It's not about making the sale. It's about making sure that they're getting the right information and they're really learning something new. They're gaining knowledge in an area that's going to be really long-term beneficial for all of their dogs.
Absolutely.
Which is really incredible. This has been so wonderful. I mean, I personally would pick your brain, and I'm sure everyone says that though. Oh, I have a dog. I have a question for you, anywhere you go. I think we all have gotten that.
I pick her brain a lot.
So for people who would want to learn more about you, or potentially try and either work with you or get in touch with you, where can people find you?
Well, I mean, the website has all our contact information. Oh, there goes Henry. I'm sorry, the table's levitating.
It's okay.
This is all right.
There he is. Hi, Henry.
We've wanted to see that all
Here's a Brenda boy.
Oh my gosh, this is beautiful.
So, I am actually not hard to get in touch with. Find me at the website. We have all our events on, we have a Facebook presence. We have an Instagram presence. We're under Deer Valley Danes. We're also under Snarky Bark. There's a lot of different ways to get in touch with us. And, we are very happy to respond sometimes, especially, if my schedule gets crazy, it might take a couple days, but, yeah, because I actually I do a lot of training with my dogs. And as Karin, because I'm always bugging her and coming over there. And I love the Solid Foundations program, by the way. It is fantastic. And I've done the online as well as, the classes and the live classes. And it is really a fantastic training opportunity. So I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I do a lot of work with my dogs. So, I am crazy busy, but I am happy to respond. and help in any way I can. And if I can't help you, I'll tell you I can't help you. But I have, over 25 years, I have amassed a great group of really good, supportive people who can help you in that journey, regardless of whether you're
Fantastic.
a rescue person, whether you're a crazy dog, Great Dane,
That crazy Dane lady.
crazy Dane lady,
Or crazy Chihuahua lady. I mean,
crazy Chihuahua. I know a lot of crazy Chihuahua ladies. I love them. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get in touch with us. And I work with two amazing women who are absolutely a wealth of information as well.
Great.
So, and I can help with recommendations or suggestions. Take a look at your dog food and take a look at the dog and be part of that conversation. I'm not saying I can answer everything, because I think that would be, that's not true. I don't think, if somebody contacts me from California and I don't know the dog, I don't know the person, I can help as best I can. And if I can't, I can try to make some recommendations to someone who can.
Fantastic. That's great.
Mhm.
I will post in the show notes. I will post links to the website and the Facebook group and things like that, so that people can find you.
I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. I know that people are going to want to learn more, and I'm sure reach out. It's been incredible. I've
Thank
really
you.
had fun. What a great first guest. You have been
Yeah.
a wealth of knowledge. Oh my
You have
gosh.
two guests. You have Henry too.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say
Thank
And
you
Henry.
so much.
And
You
Henry.
made a late
cameo.
late cameo in the last couple minutes, but I love that. What a face. Oh, he's so handsome. So handsome. Thank you so much for joining us. It has
Thank
been
you.
a real treat. No pun intended. But I know that our listeners are going to enjoy this episode too, because there is just so much information here. It's a step away from behavior, but obviously definitely adjacent to it, and they all work together. I mean, behavior and nutrition go hand in hand. But that's for another episode. But
Well, I do have one more question.
go
Karin.
for it, please.
If this is truly for our pets and baseballers, okay, I'm a big Phillies fan, okay?
Oh,
So can you recommend anything to make them play better?
Oh Lord.
oh,
Give them some of that jerky.
I was gonna say.
I prefer jerky dog crack. I mean, my dogs will do anything for it. Now I can try something new with them, and they're going to do it for that treat.
see, there you go.
Okay.
So maybe the Phillies will do that. We'll dangle some turkey breast in front of them.
There you go.
I feel like a whole bunch of guys would love that, honestly.
I mean, oh, I love
I'll
that.
talk to the girls about my new marketing program.
Yeah.
If you start a jerky line for baseball players, I think that'll take off real easy. Get some venison jerky going or something, and he'll line up.
There you go.
I will leave teaching to help you do that.
I love it. I love it. We're on to something.
I'm on it.
Oh goodness. Thank you so much, Karin. It has been so much fun. We've had such a
Thank
good
you.
time.
Thank
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, it's been great. And for everyone listening, thank you guys for joining us too. We really appreciate each and every one of you. We will be back with another episode highlighting another local pet business, because I think it's such a special thing to celebrate. And as always, in the meantime, be well, and don't forget to tell your dog we said hi. We'll see
Hi,
you.
Henry.